There once was a snake named Richard. Richard was the chosen leader of Snake Village. Snake Village was the home of hundreds of snakes and was the home of many generations of families. Richard had green scales, yellow eyes, diamonds from his head to his back, and was medium in length. He was identical to every other snake in the village, and shared the same thoughts and opinions as others. He had been chosen to lead the village because of his honesty, knowledge, and ideas. One day, Richard ordered for a new house to be built for him to live in. It had to be the most luxurious house in Snake Village, and no there could be better. He immediately sent several snakes out to collect materials, and has sent a bunch more to work with the leftover supplies. As this all happened, Richard sat in a chair made of gold and ate a platter of crackers and cheese, watching all the snakes work. When the day was over, the snakes came to Richard to report their work. The collector snakes told Richard that they were only able to collect a minimal amount of materials, and that there was no more left to be taken. A stern look appeared on his face, and then requested for the builder snakes. When the builder snakes reported to Richard that they only had one room done and no more materials left, Richard got really mad. He muttered inaudible words and paced back and forth, trying to figure out what to do. Finally, he stopped and looked straight into the scared eyes of the workers. He said, "You all must work until morning to build that house of mine, and you may not stop until tomorrow noon." All of the builder snakes looked from one snake to the other, trying to comprehend what had just been said. "Now get to work," yelled Richard. The snakes left Richard's sight in a second and got straight to work. Late in the night, when all the snakes were asleep, the builder snakes found that they didn't have any more materials. They went and woke up Richard to ask what he wanted to do. He groggily replied, "Go steal from the other snakes' houses. Take the materials that they're holding their houses up and use that. It's not like they need it." Every snake looked surprised that Richard said this. They never thought he would say this he would order to steal from the families that looked up to him so dearly. "Go now, so I can go back to sleep," he ordered. About 3 hours later in the night, a few loud crashes and booms were heard throughout the whole village. All the snakes came out to see what happened. Many snakes found parts of their houses missing, and a few large piles of what used to be houses, now in ruins. Even some of the builders had taken from their fellow builders' houses without knowing. The snakes were upset that their one and only home had been ruined by orders from the leader himself. The moral of this story is, just because someone appears to be similar to you does not mean they have your best interest at heart.
Once in a wooded forest there lived a group of wild squirrels. It was late autumn, and harvesting had begun. Two of them, called Steady and Swifty, were out scavenging for the winter together. They were collecting nuts when Steady spotted an enormous acorn, the largest he'd ever seen, in perfect condition. He set to trying to lift it, slowly dragging it back to the burrow. Swifty moved on and scrambled up the acorn trees above. He shook the highest branches, hopping from one to the other, making as many nuts fall as he could. He created piles on the ground in no time. Meanwhile, Steady inched the massive acorn slowly. By the time they both got back to the burrow, the rest of the squirrels were already there. They noticed Steady and Swifty arriving and hurriedly gathered around Swifty's impressive towering heap. They chattered excitedly about his huge haul. But then they soon noticed the poor state of the nuts. Most were covered in dust, and almost every single one was cracked or broken. The drop from the top of the trees, and the rolling, and the tossing them into piles, it all must have done it. It all must have destroyed them, and it was all Swifty's fault. Now none of them could be salvaged. But the other squirrels soon forgot about their disappointment when they remembered Steady's massive acorn. They dreamt longingly of how it would taste during the winter. Swifty was sad. Steady stood next to his acorn, proud. and Swifty sulked around. He was miserably wishing he just hadn't rushed so much.
Hello, my name is Carl. I understand that Animalandia has been in a really deep debt ever since the last war, Animal War 1. And I have to tell you that I want to end this. What I want to do to change Animalandia is that I want to change all the policies that we have. I want to make money worth more. I want to reduce inflation. And I want to change all of our people's views on society. Folks, we have been taken advantage of. People from other countries have been bullying us ever since what we did in the war. We made mistakes in the war and they haven't been forgiving us. We've been forgiving. We wrote the treaty. We did all of that to help them and they still haven't forgave us. We asked for financial aid. We asked for them to help us pay off war debts. Do you folks really want to be part of a country that is laughed at and mocked at by all of the other members of the animal nation? Or do you want to help resolve this and elect me as your leader? We want Carl! We want Carl! We want Carl! Yes, folks. Yes. Continue. We want Carl! We want Carl! We want Carl! Thank you, folks. With me elected, this country will be sure to go to great places. Now, folks, I know that I've only been in office for less than 6 months, but I have a great breakthrough. The reason why our country has been in so much debt is because of the other milk producing animals in this country. Yes, us humans and us cows alike are fine, but there are milk producing animals that are scum and should be eliminated. These milk producing animals are sheep and goats. What do you guys think? Yeah! Yes, Carl! We want better change for our country! We want better change for our country! Yes, I heard that, but I also heard some of you saying that some of your friends, or some of your family, are either sheep or goats, or other scummy milk-producing animals that are less than us. Well, guess what? You either join our side, or you get eliminated like them. We're going to make all of them wear special badges to make them identify themselves, and we're going to have soldiers to make sure that they can't produce any more of this filthy attitude that they have done that has led our country to such a downfall recently. Now, help! Oh my gosh, he was serious. We're actually in here. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is so miserable. Why do we have to live in such close quarters? Oh my god. Help. Oh my god. Mwahaha. Now you will feel the wrath. Our country will be better without you. You humans, you sheep, you goats, you cows, you scum. We only want the purest cows and the purest humans. We don't want any of you others. Ah! No! Now it is time for you to be executed. No! No!
The Unexpected Underdog by Michael Green. Once upon a time, there was a pig and a horse who were seen as very strong leaders in the farm community. The animals were already in deep need of a new leader after the goat, Mr. Clorox, announced his resignation. So, this led to the running of Mrs. Trenton and Mr. Clump as the new leaders of the farm. From the beginning of this election, most of the animals believed that Mrs. Trenton would win, even if they wanted to vote for Mr. Clump. Most of the animals were panicking, but others had faith in their animal presidential government system. It was a cold winter night when most of the animals were asleep except for Mrs. Trenton, the horse. All of a sudden, there's a loud bang that had erupted from the pig section of the barn. Mrs. Trenton rushed over to find Mr. Clump overworking the sheep in very poor conditions. She realized this would serve as great propaganda for her Freedom and Equality Party that she called for the next morning. There was a long meeting that was held. It started off as the animals gathered together in the room. I have very good news, comrades. Well, for us it is, stated Mrs. Clump. I have witnessed the candidate for the thriving business party overworking young sheep in poor conditions. As everyone gasped in shock, the animals quickly agreed on making their posters showing the cruelty of Mr. Clump to go around the barn. When the news got to him, it was already too late, and most of his followers were devastated about the situation and had generated bad thoughts about Clump. That same evening, Mr. Clump called for an emergency meeting to straighten out the misunderstanding facts that Mrs. Trenton had spread. At the meeting, he addressed that all of the sheep agreed to work overtime in order to increase the prosperity of the barn. He also accused Mrs. Trenton of being a false news source and that she couldn't be trusted. Voting day results were approaching in very few hours, and the average animal had no idea of where the outcome will lean towards. A liar that fought for freedom and equality, or a shisty, manipulative businessman. Later on that night, the polls were posted and almost every animal on the farm were surprised at the outcome, even if their candidate won. Polls were unbelievable, and in fact, Mr. Clump won and surpassed all the odds against him. The moral of the story is that not everything is as it seems, and anything can change at any given time.
Once, in a beautiful forest far away, there lived a village of turtles. They all resided happily together and their life was very peaceful. One night, a terrible storm crashed through the forest. The howling wind uprooted trees and blew around boulders. The turtles were so frightened, they ran and hid for safety. The next morning, the turtles awoke to a horrible and most unwelcome surprise. All of their homes had been destroyed in the night. The turtles decided to begin rebuilding their homes immediately. Everyone got to work, gathering broken sticks and repairing walls with tools, except for a particularly plump turtle named Peanut. Peanut did nothing, except for boss the other turtles around. He spent his days telling others what to do, and getting nothing accomplished himself. The entire day, Peanut continued his complaining and yelling at the other turtles, who were doing just fine without him. He even talked a large group of turtles into completely stopping their work. As the turtles began finishing up their work for the day, they stopped to look over what they had finished. They gaped at their surroundings. Nothing was completed. The village looked worse than it had right after the storm, and all of the turtles cursed Peanut for his horrible advice. The moral of the story is that it is foolish to rely on those who have nothing to offer but their voices.
It was an early morning in the rainforest when the roar of the leopard was heard by all the animals. All the animals gathered around the banana tree in the center of the rainforest. Leopard walked slowly from behind the tree. The leopard decided that there must be a new ruler because every kingdom has a ruler, but that he should be the new ruler. The animals knew that Leopard couldn't be their ruler. With his temper, he could start a fight with anyone. The frogs agreed that no one would be good as Lion was. Lion was not the first choice of any animal in the jungle, but after having heard that the other animals had backed out, Lion became the ruler. After Leopard volunteered, Snake volunteered. All the animals cheered. They knew Snake could handle anything. Snake could calm a whole crowd instantly, convince them that everything was okay, even if Leopard was fighting with the monkeys about who got the bananas from the banana tree. After Leopard and the Snake volunteered, Sloth volunteered, while slowly getting down from her tree. The animals were shocked. Sloth was the slowest animal in all of the rainforest. None of the animals knew much about Sloth anyway. They only knew that she was the slowest animal in the rainforest. The animals decided that Snake was to be the ruler. Everything in the rainforest seemed to be okay, but one night, when Leopard lost his temper because he wasn't the ruler, everything was chaotic. The animals fled to their homes after hearing the loud bang after Leopard knocked down the banana tree. Snake slithered to the fallen down tree and began to speak, his voice shaking. "What a tragedy," he said. "This may seem absolutely horrible, but I can tell you it will be okay, and I will plant another banana tree as soon as possible." All the animals knew that the banana tree would take years to grow, and there wouldn't be enough food for anyone. Despite knowing this, they went to their homes and went to sleep. The next morning was calm, until they found out that Snake was nowhere to be found. "He must have been too scared to handle it," said the frog. Nobody knew what to do. The animals started to panic, but when Sloth walked up to the tree, he calmed everyone down and began to speak. "I found another banana tree not far from here," he said. "After hearing the news, I went looking for a new one." All the animals cheered, and Sloth was elected the ruler of the rainforest. The rainforest thrived under Sloth's rule, and the new banana tree was even better than the last.